This webinar is all about how to buy a property in the UK. Romy, I'll have you introduce yourself and then what you do in the property world.
Hi, my name's Romy and I sell new homes in the UK, in London and other areas around London.
Fantastic. Great. So you're the perfect person to give us some insight into this. Thank you. So in terms of buying a property for an investment, which is often called buy to let because it's bought to rent out to let, can you talk to us about that market in the UK? Is it a lucrative market? Is it one that's booming? And is it one that's relatively easy to get into, or are there quite a lot of barriers to entry?
Yeah, property in the market is property in the UK is booming, and for buy-to-let investors, it's relatively easy, depending on whether you are a British citizen, whether you have a British passport. It's easier if you have a British passport. It's easier if you have a UK bank account. It's easier if you have another property in the UK. If not, it's still doable. You just need to find a good broker that can find you a good there are specific niche lenders for overseas buyers, so that might be something you have to look into. So it's not impossible, but it's easier if you have one of those three things that I mentioned.
Fantastic. And how can one even go about finding a broker? What are the ways one can do that? Is it online? Is it through like a recommendation? What are the ways?
Yeah, so if you're going through, so if you're buying new build, for example, and you're going through a developer, the developers often have recommended panel financial advisors that they can give you their contact details and you can give them a call. That's what we do. So the developer I work for, we have a list of recommended financial advisors that have done most of our purchasers' mortgages. And so if we have an overseas purchaser, we'll give them contact details to our recommended broker and they can contact them. Also, if you just do a Google search online, you can find there are lots of brokers. Look at those, find out what specialize in, and take it from there.
Fantastic. Okay, so let's talk about the deposit now that is required to get in just a property, like a personal property, and then the deposit that's required to get a buy-to-let property, and then what checks and what checks are done in order to be eligible for.
Okay. So if you're purchasing a buy-to-let, usually most high street lenders, most popular lenders will require 25% deposit, as opposed to if you're purchasing a residential property to live in, it's usually 10%. Or if you're buying a new home and you're a first-time buyer and you're using Help to Buy or any buying schemes like Deposit Unlock, then you can actually buy with 5%. But for a buy-to-let, usually it's 25% that you'll need as a deposit.
Okay. And what are the schemes you mentioned? You mentioned Help to Buy, and you mentioned the other one. What do you need to be eligible for those schemes?
So there are some salary requirements that you'd have to check with your broker exactly what they are. But Help to Buy is basically a government scheme where the government will loan you. Within London, it's 40% of the property price, and outside of London, it's 20% of the property price to put towards your deposit. So then you only need 5% deposit. So let's say, for example, you're buying a property at £200,000 and you're buying outside of London. The government will give you 40,000. So that's towards your deposit, and then all you need is a 5% deposit. So you'll need 10,000. So then you've got £50,000. And then you only need a mortgage for 150,000. So it's just to help people, first-time buyers, get on the property ladder. It's interest-free for the first 5 years. Then after that, you'll start paying a small fee back towards your loan. And then the only thing with that is that when you do go to sell the property, you have to pay back 20% of the value of the property at the time when you sell, or 40%, depending on how much your loan was that you got. So if your property price goes up a lot, then the government still owns 20 or 40% of the property price at the time when you need to sell. But that option is not available for buy-to-let investors. It's just for first-time buyers in the UK.
Okay, got it. Fantastic. So you also mentioned something in our last chat where you were talking about how there's certain areas that are more affordable to buy in. Could you kind of tell us about those areas? What areas specifically in London and then out of London, and then the specific prices as well?
Yeah, so in London, so London is very expensive, obviously. If you're looking for something a bit more affordable, then there are areas in and around London that you can purchase in. So Barking and Dagenham is quite affordable. Bexley is affordable. Croydon, which is like south of London, Hounslow and Enfield are, if you like, within the M25. If you're looking outside of London, Luton is a good option. Luton is about a 30-minute drive outside of 30-minute drive from like northwest London, and you could get a 2-bedroom in Luton for like 200 to 250,000, as opposed to in London, like northwest London, you're looking at 350,000 for new build I'm talking about. So for £100,000 less, and about 30 miles out of London, you can save money. If you're looking to say, if you want to spend even less, up north is a lot more affordable. So Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool. So Manchester in the city centre, for example, you can buy a 2-bedroom new build for about 175,000, and a second-hand property on the second-hand market for a lot less than that. So, and then if you're going to go even further out, like Yorkshire, by the coast, you can buy a 2-bedroom house for like 60,000. So it just depends on your budget, and it just depends where you want to buy. But there is something for everyone.
Fantastic. And I wanted to also get into something you said to me a bit earlier, which I love, which was all about how to calculate whether you were getting a good return on investment. And you were telling me that it's all about calculating your yield. Can you go into a bit of detail about that, please?
Yeah. So the yield is basically your return on your investment. So a good yield is between 5 to 8%. So how you work out the yield is, let's say you're purchasing a property for £200,000, and it lets for £700 per month. So your annual income on that rental would be £8,400. So you divide 8,400, which is your annual rental income, by the property price, which is 200,000, and then multiply it by 100, and you've got a yield of 4.2%. Which is okay, but ideally, if you're looking to make a good return on investment, 5 to 8% is a good yield to go for. Okay,
so it's important to calculate your yield just to make sure that your rental income is going to be something worthwhile.
Decent, yeah.
Fantastic. And when I think of the UK, I think of taxes. I think of a lot of different taxes that you have to pay when you buy property. Can you give us a bit of a rundown of what the taxes are on buy-to-let properties, as well as properties just bought for personal use as well?
Yeah, so the stamp duty, everyone has to pay stamp duty, and it depends on the price of the property. So I wouldn't be able to give you an exact amount, because it depends on the price of the property. It goes up. So for the first, up to 125,000, it's a specific amount. Then from 125 to I think 250. But overseas purchasers will have to pay an extra 2% on top of the 3% duty. Go on stampdutycalculator.org.uk. It will tell you, it will break down all the stamp duty costs, but that's something that definitely investors need to consider before purchasing, because it is quite a big amount. So if you were an overseas investor purchasing a property at £200,000, you would pay £11,500 in stamp duty. And yeah, obviously, if your property price is higher, you'll be paying more. So that's definitely something to take into consideration. As well as your deposit, you'll also have to pay the stamp duty as well.
Okay. And then you talk about how you mainly deal with new builds. What is the difference between a new build and, I guess, is it called an old build? I don't know, an older building. Like, what are the pros of getting a new build versus getting an old building?
So there is usually a premium for new builds. They are usually more expensive than purchasing on the second-hand market. The benefits are the property is ready to go. There's less maintenance, less work. You can literally let it out, furnish it, let it out furnished, or let it out unfurnished. Usually there's a management company in place that looks after, the communal areas and the things like that. So it's less work, but you're going to pay a premium for that. Yeah. Whereas on the second-hand market, you have to do a lot more checks. You might have issues with valuation. You just need to make sure that your property is in good condition. So yeah, that's that. But you can probably find something for a lot less, and then do some work to it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I love that you said that, because we're all looking for a bargain here in 2022. Everybody wants to make their money stretch as far as possible. So if someone is looking to get a property at a bargain price, how does one go about it? Is it just scouring websites like Rightmove? Is it going to the broker? And what are the methods?
So if you're in the UK, it's best to basically do a web search, go to local agents, look online. And if you're out of the UK, there are like property finders, there are agents and introducers that can look for you, that will either take, if you're looking for a new build, they'll find you specific new builds and they'll take their fee from the developer, or you can pay them a fee and they'll go out and look for properties for you. Yes, definitely, if you're here, then you just have to go out there and have a look. Just go to all the different developments, go to different agents, and see what you can find.
If someone is living in Nigeria but they want to own a rental property in the UK and they want to manage it, what are the options for management companies in the UK who can make sure everything is sorted in terms of maintenance, making sure all the bills are paid up to date and all the rest of it? How easy is it to get a company to do that?
It is quite easy. There are plenty of property management companies in the UK that they'll charge you an annual fee or a monthly fee, and they'll look after your property for you. They'll look after your tenants for you, make sure that all the utility bills are paid, make sure the cleaning's done, any maintenance work that needs to be done, they'll do that for you. Obviously, you need to factor that in when you are calculating your return on investment, because as well as there might be a service charge to pay, so you need to factor that in. And then if you've got a property management company in place as well, whatever fees that they charge, you'll have to factor, because that will all affect your yield as well. So just take that into consideration if you are an overseas purchaser. There may be extra costs like property management, a property manager, and service charges, things like that.
Okay, fantastic. And do you think for someone who is just starting, hasn't purchased at all in the UK and just wants to start, what are some of the resources, online resources that they can check out in order to just start doing their research and getting a feel for are there any websites that you would recommend?
So stampdutycalculator.org.uk is good to calculate your stamp duty, find out exactly how much you'll be paying. A good broker is definitely important. So do a search and speak to a few different brokers, because some will be able to give you better options than others. Some specialize in overseas mortgages, mortgages for overseas purchases. So definitely find a good broker, and also a good solicitor. So have a look online for a good solicitor, because your solicitor is reliant on your solicitor is responsible for how smoothly the process goes. And trust me, I've worked with a lot of clients that have picked a solicitor because they've been the cheap solicitor and it's been the cheapest option, but they've regretted it because it's made the sale so much slower and so much more complicated. So in terms of websites and stuff, like your typical websites like your Rightmove, Zoopla, and then obviously auction websites are good as well if you are looking for, like, on the secondhand market for affordable, cheaper properties. But yeah, look for a broker, look for a good solicitor, and stamp duty calculator is your best friend.
Well, Romy, thank you so much. I know it's been like a short power pack session. You've given us all the tips and tools and tricks that we need to become homeowners. So really appreciate you taking time on a Saturday, nonetheless, to go over all of this. So thank you so much and have a wonderful.
You're more welcome. Thank you for listening.